Unbelievable secrets revealed in the book of Numbers that will shock you. Few knew what truly happened that night in the vast, starry expanse of the desert. A cacophony of gasps sprawled among the tents as darkness settled, each breath heavy with tension. It was the night the Israelites received guidance from their mysterious God, and yet, what transpired felt like a fever dream. Moses, a figure draped in authority and mystery, stood before the masses. His face glowed strangely, illuminated by the flickering torches. The Lord had spoken to him. He alone heard divine whispers that sent shivers through the hearts of those gathered. Count the people. He had urged them. But into what depths did this census lead? The book of Numbers begins here, where secrets tangled with fear and hope. As the Israelites trekked through the wilderness, they were not just wandering aimlessly, their very future was at stake. Each tribe counted like puzzle pieces, fitting together to form a larger picture. Yet as the numbers climbed, so too did the unease. What if someone was left behind? What if rebellion stirred among the camp? Those who listened leaned in, filled with an insatiable curiosity. Some spoke of miracles intertwined with mysteries. The sky flickered with ominous clouds, a warning perhaps. The scent of something otherworldly wafted through the night. Was it incense, or the breath of something darker? People shuffled nervously, eyes darting. So many allegations of insubordination, whispers of discontent. What happened when the faithful, numbering thousands, stood eye to eye with uncertainty? A warm breeze turned icy as flickering shadows danced across the ground. Could darkness consume them despite their faith? One man's voice broke through the murmurs, trembling with fear. What if we're merely counting sheep to the slaughter? Voices echoed, growing discordant. The very fabric of their unity felt frayed, yet amidst this dread, flickers of hope ignited. A prophecy lingered in the air, promises whispered to Moses, unraveling destinies as he raised his staff toward the heavens. A wave of anticipation swept through the crowd. The question loomed, what miracles would follow this night? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the whispers of apprehension danced through the air, the figures of the tribes shifted subtly in the flickering light. They were more than mere numbers, they were stories, histories looping through time, with each family representing a thread in the exquisite tapestry of their covenant. Yet, within this gathering, some were left divided by doubt, clinging precariously to shadows of distrust. Moses, holding tightly to the words of the Lord, pondered the weight of his mission. Each tribe's count had meaning, the bond between brother and brother, parent and child. He could feel the shifting atmosphere weighed with the unseen heaviness of hearts questioning their path and purpose. The night was rife with tension, and yet he understood it as he had been taught. They were not lost, for the pillar of cloud by day and fire by night guided them even in this time of uncertainty. In a moment of stillness, he raised his hands, quieting the restless crowd before him. Brothers and sisters, he called, his voice steady but reverberating with the urgency of his purpose. What we count tonight binds us to one another and to the God who has journeyed with us. We stand at the threshold of destiny, not merely as a multitude, but as a family fashioned by divine promise. As he spoke, the stars above twinkled with an ethereal light, and a soft rustling breeze invited an unseen presence into the assembly. The men and women, despite their fears and factions, felt a stirring within their hearts, a forgotten awareness of the miracles that could emerge from faith even in their doubt. They were not merely beings numbered but were a living testimony to a covenant. But what lay ahead remained hidden. Was the promised land a mere illusion? How many tribulations must they endure before tasting the milk and honey? And as if in answer to their silent queries, a mighty wind whisked across the desert, carrying with it an echo of voices, timeless and filled with wisdom that seemed to penetrate the deepest parts of their souls. In that moment, a woman stepped forward, her face lit by firelight, eyes passionate and piercing. "Moses," she proclaimed, voice unwavering. "You tell us of faith, but what of fear? What of the uncertainty that grips our hearts? How do we trust in a promise perceived yet unfelt? What if the Lord's hand has turned from us?" The murmurs rose once more, a mix of hope and growing unrest. Moses scanned the faces, recognizing the flickers of fear that mirrored his own internal struggle. The air thickened with questions that could not be spoken. Yet he held on to one certainty: they could not falter, for unity would be their greatest weapon against despair. "Let us together recount the wonders our God has performed," Moses urged. "He parted the sea before us, and we walked safely upon dry land. He has provided for us daily as the heavens poured down manna. Do you not see? In unity, our strength multiplies." Yet, as his words filled the air, doubts lingered, weaving through the crowd like a serpent, igniting a question far deeper than their immediate fears. What did it mean to trust in a God who remained shrouded in mystery, whose presence was palpable yet often elusive? As night deepened, the fires flickered and flickered with life, mirroring the flame of hope being kindled within them all. But the unresolved tension, the whispers of possible rebellion, hung like clouds pregnant with rain just beyond the horizon. What could it mean to count every soul, knowing that each count could lead not only to salvation but to an act of faith that could also challenge their very existence? As the stars burned brightly above, it posed a lingering question: would they embrace their journey as a united people, or would division tear apart the fabric of their hope? As the stars continued their nightly vigil, Moses stepped down from his elevated position, moving towards the edge of the firelight, where a group huddled closer together. Their faces, cast in warm orange and deepening shadows, bore the marks of worry and resolve. Here, in the flickering glow, he sensed a pulse of vulnerability, a pathway to the hearts he needed to reach. Amidst them stood Miriam, his sister, her wisdom as fierce as the desert winds. She met Moses' gaze, a silent exchange of strength passing between them. "Moses," she spoke, her voice a blend of fire and tenderness, "each of us carries a multitude of shadows and burdens. The people do not just fear the journey ahead, they fear the very unfamiliarity of their own hearts. Are we prepared to unearth the darkness within us? That, more than the wilderness, might hinder our passage." Moses pondered her words deeply, for he understood that the wilderness they traversed was more than a landscape, it was a mirror reflecting their innermost fears and desires. "Perhaps it is time to invite the shadows into the light," he replied. "To share the stories we carry, thereby binding us to one another through vulnerability and truth." At the heart of the assembly, the whispers quieted, drawn in by a different type of tension blossoming in the air. Moses beckoned the first to speak, a weary father whose strength seemed to wane under the weight of silence. His voice trembled as he confessed, "I fear that I have led my family astray. The lessons of Egypt haunt us more than the sandstorms of this desert. What if I am not meant to lead? What if I cannot deliver them to the land promised?" Moses listened attentively, realizing that fears festered in the shadows, left unacknowledged. In these confessions lay an invitation, a deeper understanding of what it meant to walk together. With each shared burden, he felt the bond strengthen, as if in naming their fears, they transformed into points of connection rather than isolation. One by one, stories emerged like flickers of kindling: the mother who prayed for her children's safety, the son who could not bear to reflect on the past, the daughter whose heart ached for a home she had not known. Each shared sorrow added to the tapestry they had woven over years, a colorful yet complex blend of hope and despair. As the night wore on, the atmosphere shifted, a quiet strength began to unfurl. They understood that faith was not merely an unwavering belief but an acknowledgement of their struggles woven into the fabric of their journey. In the presence of their shared humanity, doubts began to seem less like insurmountable walls and more like stepping stones toward a greater understanding. As the first light of dawn began to penetrate the darkness, illuminating the faces of the gathered tribes, Moses could sense a change. It was not merely the passing of night but the dawning realization that their greatest challenge lay not in the destination ahead but in the courage to face their own hearts, together. In this newfound acceptance of their fears, a quiet question arose, a mysterious whisper amongst them: what if the journey into the promised land began with an even greater exodus from within, leading them to confront the fragmented pieces of their own souls? Would they emerge unified from the shadows, or would the path to freedom remain murky and concealed, holding secrets still waiting to be unraveled? As the dawn spread its golden light across the horizon, illuminating the rugged terrain of the wilderness, Moses reflected on the night's revelations. The gathered voices had stirred something deep within him, a realization that would shape their path forward. The fears they had named were not mere stumbling blocks, they were opportunities for renewal, potential catalysts for deeper connection. Yet, even as they stood on the brink of this awakening, the magnitude of their journey loomed larger than the sun climbing the sky. Moses felt a tug in his spirit, an inner prompting to guide his people further into this exploration of their hearts. "Gather around," he called softly, his voice steady and inviting. "We have leaned closely into our fears, now let us also remember our strength. For in each of our stories lies a spark of faith, one that calls us to rise, not only for ourselves but for all of our kin." The people began to close the circle, eyes wide with attentive curiosity. Miriam stood at his side, her presence a steady force, unswerving in conviction. It was she who reminded them, "We are more than the shadows we cast. We are a legacy woven with dreams, survival, and the promise of new beginnings. Let us recall the richness of our heritage, the tales of our ancestors who faced giants and parted seas. What wisdom can we draw from their journeys to aid our own?" A wise elder, cradling an ancient staff worn from years of use, spoke next. "In every trial, there lies the opportunity for the spirit to break forth anew. The stories we carry are not just shadows of the past, they are vessels of lessons learned and victories won." His eyes twinkled with a glimmer of mischief, as if he held a secret known only to those who had embraced both light and dark. As tales of old began to weave their way into the space, Moses felt the fire inside him rekindle. He recalled the tales of the burning bush, the moment when he had first sensed the presence of the divine calling him. Back then, he had wrestled with doubt, and yet here he was, surrounded by the very people he had been chosen to lead. Their stories were not only mirrors into their pasts but stepping stones into their future. A young woman then raised her voice, fraught with anticipation. "But what of the trials ahead? What if they fracture us even more? What if we discover deeper despair within?" Her eyes shimmered with a mix of hope and trepidation. It was a question that hung heavy in the air, twisting the hearts of the gathering even closer as they awaited Moses' response. In the silence that followed, Moses contemplated the weight of their journey. The road to the promised land was fraught with uncertainty, yet through each trial, the people had the chance to unearth hidden strengths. "Embrace the uncertainty, for it is in the unknown that we discover who we are," he spoke, his voice laced with conviction. "We shall not shy away from the hurt and the challenge ahead, instead, we will meet it as a community, unified." As the sun ascended higher, the gathering began to pulsate with a new energy. Whispers of hope mingled with shadows of fear as they shared stories of resilience. They spoke of signs they had seen, of dreams that hinted at futures filled with promise, of moments where they had felt the divine guiding them, even amidst their struggles. The connection between them grew, a tapestry of voices stitching together the collective strength that would propel them into the unknown. Yet, as they reveled in the power of unity, deeper questions began to surface, questions that whispered beneath the surface of their hearts. What pieces of themselves were they still withholding? In their yearning for the promised land, might they overlook the treasures hidden in the journey? As the sun continued to rise, illuminating not just the landscape but their hearts, a thrilling, yet unresolved question lingered in the air: would they find the courage to embrace both the dream of freedom and the shadows of truth that sought to follow them? As the day unfurled before them, casting long shadows across the landscape, Moses felt the weight of an uncharted journey pressing upon his heart. The voices of his people swirled in a harmonious blend, yet within their songs of longing, he sensed an undercurrent of anxiety. They were caught in the delicate dance between hope and despair, with trepidation shadowing their steps. "Today, we will journey together," Moses declared, an anchor in the shifting tides of emotion. "Let us not only share our stories but also seek the wisdom that lies hidden within them. For the questions we bear are not merely burdens, they are gems steeped in mystery, waiting for the light of understanding." With that, he led them to a small, sunlit glade, where the air was scented with wildflowers and the promise of spring. As they gathered, the soft rustle of leaves created a backdrop for contemplation. "Share with me," he invited, "the secrets that dwell in your hearts. What truths have you held close that may yet illuminate our path?" A young man stepped forward, his brow furrowed with concern. "Moses, I have always feared the voice of the Lord. The whispers I hear feel like storms raging within me. Am I not worthy? What if I am but a shadow of those who came before me, who marched with certainty and conviction?" His honesty hung heavily in the air, resonating with many who dared not speak. Miriam placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Fear not, dear brother, for every voice is a note in the symphony of our journey. The divine does not seek perfection, rather, it calls for authenticity. In the acknowledgement of our frailty, we find the seed of our strength." Moses nodded, encouraged by her words. He turned to the assembly, inviting them to reflect on their collective identity. Each of us carries a piece of the tapestry that is our shared story. It is not the tale of the flawless that binds us, but the journey of those who stumble, rise, and seek anew. An elder woman spoke up, her voice quavering yet firm. "What of our children? What legacy do we pass on amidst our struggles? Will they know the strength we've unearthed, or only the doubts that occasionally cloud our hearts?" Her question hung like a bell in the stillness, reverberating through their souls. Moses closed his eyes, pondering not just the journey forward but the generations yet to come. He was reminded of promises made and covenants forged, of ancestors who had trodden similar paths adorned with both suffering and joy. "We shall show them our trials," he answered, with a heartfelt resonance. "For in our vulnerabilities, they will find the strength to navigate their own storms. Our truth will not be a burden but a beacon guiding them home." As the sun climbed higher and the shadows receded, the gathering began to delve deeper. They shared tales of their ancestors, echoes of courage and wisdom that shaped their identity. Each narrative unveiled hidden fears, joys, and ultimately the power of choice, a reminder that their fate rested not in the hands of fate alone but in their collective resolve. Yet, as they unraveled the past, questions began to loom larger, demanding attention. In the face of trials yet unseen, how would they define themselves? What unspoken fears still lurked in the corners of their hearts, eager to be acknowledged? Would they rise above their tribulations and embrace the fullness of their truth, or would they allow the shadows to dim their potential? As the gathering pondered the echoes of their shared history, their hearts beat as one, united in the pulse of hope. And so, beneath the vast expanse of an unrestrained sky filled with possibilities, a single, unresolved thought began to nestle within them. In the quest for freedom, how might they intertwine their fears with the power of their dreams, without losing sight of one another along the way? As the gathering lingered in soft contemplation, a palpable stillness wrapped around them, interrupted only by the gentle whispers of the breeze weaving through the trees. Moses sensed a deeper longing stirring within each soul, an innate desire to draw closer to the divine, to unveil the hidden truths that beckoned beneath the surface. The light shifted subtly, casting a warm embrace upon the glade. It was then that Moses felt compelled to share his own struggles, a venture into vulnerability, a daring step that could bind them in trust. "I, too, have wrestled with the weight of uncertainty," he began, his voice steady yet earnest. "When first I encountered the voice of Yahweh, it was a tremor that resonated through my very being. My heart quaked, not from fear alone, but from the magnitude of the task before me, the call to lead a nation toward freedom." He paused, allowing the gravity of his words to settle, then continued, "At the burning bush, I was met with questions of self-worth and inadequacy. Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh? I asked, knowing full well the measure of my past. Yet, in that sacred moment, I realized the divine does not call the equipped, rather, it equips the called." A silence enveloped the assembly as they reflected on their leader's revelations. They began to see a flicker of hope within their own fears. Perhaps their doubts were not barriers, but gateways to deeper understanding. Miriam, emboldened by her brother's confession, shared a memory from their childhood. "I remember, once, standing at the edge of the river, where I desperately longed to swim but feared the currents would take me away. Yet, the more I hesitated, the deeper the longing became. One moment of trust led to countless joyful splashes and laughter. What if our fears are the currents that lead us, rather than drown us? Spurred by her words, others began to weave their threads of revelation into the fabric of the moment. An elder man spoke of the weight of his past actions, a youth filled with hasty decisions that now burdened his conscience. Yet here I stand, witnessing the beauty of redemption unfolding among us. I realize my past is not a chain, but a reminder of my journey, of how far I have come. The air thickened with shared vulnerability, and in that sacred space, hearts began to listen to each other, not just to the spoken words but to the unspoken dreams lingering at the edges. They learned that in peeling back the layers of their lives, every scar bore witness to survival, and every tear had fertilized the soil of possibility. As the day wore on, Moses looked upon his people with admiration. They were transformed not merely by words, but by a collective awakening of spirit. Questions danced from soul to soul, each alive with curiosity and wonder about the unseen threads that connected their individual stories to a larger narrative. Do you not feel, he asked, the dance of destiny awaiting us? We are not merely wanderers, we are seekers of truth. Our fears and dreams are woven together to show us who we are becoming. But what of the challenges ahead? How shall we, in solidarity, face the trials that loom like giants before us? The assembly remained silent, the weight of the inquiry lingering in the air. Each gaze met with a spark of resolve, yet the uncertainty of their path remained unaddressed. Would they transform their collective fears into fortitude? Could they unite their dreams into a shared vision, strong enough to weather the storms unfolding on their horizon? As twilight settled over the glade, they grasped the fullness of the moment, both exhilarating and daunting. And so the question echoed through their hearts, in the face of inevitable trials, how would they choose to intertwine their vulnerabilities with hope, forging a path that honors both their fears and their dreams? As the twilight deepened, the vibrant hues of the setting sun began to surrender to the embrace of night. The gathering slowly silenced, each heart a vessel brimming with contemplation. The glade around them, once alive with the vibrancy of day, transformed into a sanctuary of stillness. Stars began to pierce the canopy overhead, blinking down like sightless witnesses to the unfolding story of a people in search of liberation and identity. Moses, feeling the weight of the moment, reflected on the vast history tethered to their common bond. We are on the cusp of something greater than ourselves, he said softly, his voice carrying an urgency that resonated with the night's quiet. Yet before we venture into the unknown, it is vital that we understand what lies within our hearts. He motioned toward the flickering firelight, its flames dancing against the encroaching darkness like the very essence of their aspirations. What do we carry within us, my brothers and sisters? Are we not full of unspoken dreams and the echoes of ancestors whose lives paved our way? Each of us bears a legacy, both cherished and burdened. A young woman, leaning closer to the warmth of the fire, spoke up. I often wonder, what lies in the moments of stillness when we strip away the distractions of life? In those silent times, do we not get glimpses of our truest selves? Her words struck a chord, and the murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. Could our unanswered questions illuminate the path ahead? Ah, the silent moments! Moses exclaimed, nodding appreciatively. Indeed, they are where revelation often dances, teasing us with greater truths. They beckon us to look beyond our struggles. He glanced around, meeting the gaze of each person, encouraging its significance. Let us not shy away from these questions. In them lies the wisdom that can transform our fears into a shared strength. With an unexpected flick of a branch, the flames erupted higher, illuminating the faces of those gathered. The light painted stories across their features, the joy, the sorrow, the resolve etched deeply into their breaths. Each revelation shared was a mirror reflecting not just individual struggles, but a collective yearning for understanding. Elders among them, steeped in years of life's complexities, began to recount tales of other wanderers, their ancestors who had roamed deserts vast and foreboding, who had fought against despair. We have a sacred history of perseverance, spoke a frail but firm voice, steeped in wisdom. Each challenge faced demands our present to rise to the occasion, crafting faith anew from the dust of experience. Moses nodded, inspired by the stories threaded through their ancestry. Yet, my friends, while our past holds valuable lessons, it is also vital to discern our own dreams as a community. What visions spark within us as we stand on the brink of this journey? His heart swelled, sensing the pulse of hope intertwining with uncertainty around the circle. As if summoned by the gravity of Moses' reflection, the night air turned heavier, an enigmatic silence descending among them. Each soul pulsed with awakening consciousness, a dynamic tension building, fueling anticipation, yet evoking uncharted fear. Miriam raised her hand, a gesture of both questioning and defiance against the shadows creeping in. Between our dreams and fears, we must carve a space for possibility, an avenue where even our uncertainties can reveal purpose, she declared, her voice steady. But how can we ensure that these currents do not sweep us away in confusion and despair? With that profound question lingering in the air, all eyes turned to Moses. The weight of their hopes and fears bore down upon him like the towering mountains visible in the distance, a reminder of the trials they would one day face. What indeed is the anchor that will guide us? Moses mused aloud, the flicker of the flames illuminating deep contemplation within him. Is it our shared vision, the promise of deliverance? Or is it the knowledge that amidst fear and uncertainty, we are called to trust in something profoundly greater than ourselves? As dawn lingered just beyond the horizon, anticipation coiled tighter around the gathering. The path before them remained uncarved, obscured by shadows of doubt, yet illuminated by their shared vulnerability and courage. And so, they remained awake, hearts racing with the question that echoed into the enveloping night: how would they forge a path into the unknown that honored the complexity of their fears while also nurturing the brilliance of their dreams? A stillness enveloped the clearing as the congregation sat in rapt attention around the flickering fire, their minds weaving together the stories shared. With the first whispers of dawn beginning to ease away the night, the edges of the world materialized with a subtle clarity, yet within that revelation, the essence of their journey shimmered like the stars fading with the sunrise. Moses, sensing the charged atmosphere, stood up to face his people. As we stand upon the threshold of the great unknown, let us remember that we are not alone. The most profound strength is not a solitary force, it is a collective spirit intertwined, fortified by our shared destiny. The intensity of his gaze shifted from one person to the next, urging them to absorb the weight of his words. But this road ahead will not be without trials, he continued, resolute. In the moments of doubt and fear that will surely come, may we draw deep from the well of our stories, our scars, and our hopes. Each obstacle surmounted yields a lesson of resilience and faith. Just as our forebears faced adversities, we too must discover what this path is meant to teach us. There was a whisper of wind, as if the very elements participated in their solemn gathering. Miriam, drawn into the gravity of the moment, raised her voice again: but what if our trials become too heavy to bear? What if we succumb to despair instead of finding strength? Her question, tinged with concern, hovered in the air like an unanswered prayer. Moses' brows furrowed in thought, silence enveloped them once more. Yet the silence was fertile, brimming with potential. Is despair not the precursor to a deeper understanding? He posed, almost as a challenge. Our struggles may blind us temporarily, but they also sharpen our sight. The promise of our liberation lies within those very shadows. From the edge of the circle, a wise elder who had been watching spoke up, his voice like gravel smoothed by years of wisdom. Life itself is a tapestry woven from darkness and light. Each thread pulls us forward or binds us in place. If we approach our fears as teachers rather than tormentors, we may find wisdom instead of woe. This perspective kindled a spark of curiosity among the listeners, as they pondered the fabric of their existence. How, then, do we learn? A young boy chimed in, eyes wide with innocence and yearning. What lessons can our fears teach us if we can't even face them? The innocent question struck at the very heart of their gathering, a reminder of the vulnerability cloaked within them all. Moses felt a swell of purpose within. We gather in community to reflect, to share. Each time we voice our fears, we lessen their grip upon our hearts. In the dialogue we create, we transform the unseen into something tangible. Engulfed with newfound determination, Miriam interjected, as we voice these fears into the night, we invite recognition of their presence. But must we not also seek to discover what lies beyond them? Our ancestors reached heights despite their doubts, we too can forge a path toward our greatest hopes. As the sun broke through the tendrils of night, illuminating the faces that had shared so much, the flickering fire began to burn lower, as if responding to the encroaching light of dawn. The gathering, now charged with energy, began to pulse with questions enveloping their hearts. In those defining moments, as warmth and clarity gently kissed away shadows, another thought stirred among them. What if the fears they nurtured were merely the reflection of something greater that awaited them? Could it be that the very doubts which bound them were the catalysts for the liberation they sought? Moses opened his arms wide, embracing the dawn. Let us go forth and discover, not just why we fear, but what our hearts yearn for beyond it. A murmur of affirmation danced among the circle, though many were still tethered by unarticulated concerns. As the first light of a new day washed over the glade, releasing them from the depths of night, the question hung in the air like dew on grass, glistening yet unanswered. What greater truths might they uncover beyond their fears, as they embark upon this twilight of their journey? As the light of the new day began to stretch across the heavens, the congregation stirred, invigorated and anxious, each member feeling the call of the journey ahead. The feeling of anticipation hung like a sweet scent in the air, promising something both terrifying and exhilarating. Moses, ever attuned to the collective heart of his people, recognized the rising tide of questions and longings that flowed from them. Before we set forth on the path before us, he said, a steadiness in his voice, let us gather one more time to seek clarity on what lies within our hearts and minds. The journey is not merely one of feet across barren sands, it is a pilgrimage of the spirit. A hush fell over the group as they fell into deep reflection, each seeking a quiet moment to connect with their innermost thoughts. Miriam, emboldened by the spirit of inquiry that had ignited during the night, ventured forth. What if our fears are the shadows of the greatness within us? Are we meant to confront these apparitions alone, or can we lean upon each other in this chase for light? Her voice danced with hope, yet the timbre of uncertainty lingered, echoing in the stillness. Moses regarded her with a gentle affirmation, a semblance of a smile crossing his lips. To confront fear alone is to miss the wisdom we can glean from one another. Each of us carries a pebble of truth that, when shared, has the potential to create ripples. We are woven together, each thread supports another. By sharing both burdens and insights, we weave a stronger tapestry of resilience. An elderly woman, her face a map of life's challenges, nodded gravely. But what if we uncover truths that are grim? What if the revelations are uncomfortable, and the lessons too arduous to bear? Her brow furrowed, concern etched in her features. Yet it is within discomfort that growth emerges, replied Moses, his conviction soaring. Even the mightiest tree bends with the storm but does not break. We must be willing to question, to look within, not to cast blame, but to seek understanding. Revelations may bring discomfort, but they may also prepare us to embrace the unknown. The young boy again spoke, curiosity sparking within him. Will we know when we find these truths? What if they hide from us, like the shadows of the night? He looked at Moses, seeking assurance that the journey would lead somewhere profound. We will know, Moses affirmed thoughtfully. Truth carries a weight, a resonance that shakes free the complacent heart. It may arrive as a whisper or a storm, however, it marks those who encounter it. Each moment of fear faced will unveil more light, illuminating truths still shrouded. Trust in the process, trust in one another. Just then, as if responding to their contemplation, a subtle breeze coursed through the clearing, stirring the leaves and rustling the grass. The people closed their eyes for a moment, sensing that an ancient spirit lingered in the air, silently urging them toward a deeper understanding. Could it be that the very essence of their journey was intertwined with nature itself? Miriam broke the silence with a fervent declaration. Let it be known, we do not venture forth into emptiness. Each step taken will resonate with those who came before, their fears, their triumphs, and their lessons weave into our present. They guide us, and so does the divine presence. As they contemplated her words, the warmth of the rising sun began to push against the remnants of night, drawing visions of what might be from the depths of their fears. Moses took a moment to savor the unity and reflection shared, committing it to prayer, quietly invoking strength for the community. And so we stand together. Shall we endeavor into that which challenges us, seeking out not only the fears that bind us but also the beauty that life has to offer beyond those binds? As the congregation collectively inhaled the new dawn, a lingering question remained, floating amidst the mingling scents of earth and sky. What undiscovered truths awaited their discovery, for beyond their fears lay the promise of transformation, a transformation that perhaps they could not yet fathom. As the sun ascended higher, casting a warm golden light across the vast desert, a sense of bustling life filled the air. Moses stood at the edge of the encampment, the weight of anticipation pressing against his chest. The people had gathered once more, and there was a spirit of solemn determination woven through their ranks. This was the moment they would step forward, not just from the wilderness of dry sands but also from the deeper wilderness within themselves. "Gather around," Moses called, his voice firm yet gentle. "Today, we are not merely marching toward a destination, we are embarking on a journey inward, seeking the truth of our souls that has long been laid dormant beneath layers of fear and doubt." For it was with every passing day that he sensed their unity had formed something powerful, a current flowing beneath their struggles, binding them beyond the boundaries of uncertainty. As the people circled him, their faces illuminated with resolve, Moses could see glimmers of hope mingled with apprehension. "You have shared your fears, and now I ask you to share your dreams. What do you truly seek on this path? What visions flicker like embers in your hearts, waiting to ignite?" A young girl, her eyes shining like the morning sun, stepped forth hesitantly yet with a glimmer of hope. "I dream of a place where we can live freely, where the land flows with milk and honey, and where no one knows the weight of our burdens." Her voice rang out like a bell, striking against the hearts of those gathered, rippling through the assembly. The crowd murmured in agreement, their collective yearning rising to the surface. "Yes. A home," another voice called, fortifying the resolve among them. Moses felt the thrill of their aspirations, and he continued, "Remember, it is not just the promised land that we seek but also the promise embedded within our hearts, the strength to face the fears of our past and the courage to embrace the hopes of our future. Together, we transform fear into the fuel of our faith." A voice from the back spoke up boldly, "But what if we stumble, Moses? What if we lash at one another in our pain? How do we guard against despair?" Moses took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the question hang in the air. Despair, while heavy, can be a guide, teaching us about our limits and expanding our understanding of grace. We must hear each other's struggles as echoes of our own, for in doing so, we create bridges stronger than any divides that threaten us. Just then, an elderly woman, beloved and wise, rose to her feet. Her age had graced her with lines of wisdom that traced the contours of her face. "Our journey is a shared legacy," she said, her voice firm yet tender. "The shadows we face are not ours alone, they ripple back through our ancestors, and forward into our children. We must honor that connection as we walk, and in honoring it, we experience healing." Moses nodded, his heart swelling with the truth of her words. "Indeed, we are the sum of our stories, each tale a thread woven into the tapestry of existence. When one of us stumbles, we all stumble, yet when one of us rises, we all rise." As the sun climbed higher, illuminating the gathered people with the brilliance of morning, fear began to evaporate like dew under the warmth. Hearts swelled with possibility, visions igniting like sparks catching flame. Together, they forged the vision of unity not as a mere concept but as a palpable reality, their spirits reaching higher. "Let us take our first step, together," Moses declared, a weight lifting from his soul as he felt the collective energy of dreams surrounding him. The people surged forward, hand in hand, each stride an affirmation of unity, each soul connected by the collective aspirations of many. But just as hope surged, a wind swept through the camp, shaking the very fabric of their gathering. Unease trembled like a shadow across their hearts, it beckoned with all the resistance they had faced and all the challenges that lay ahead. Moses felt the hesitation, the whisper of uncertainty echoing in hesitating hearts. Believe in what you have shared with each other, he shouted above the rising winds, for in your stories is the strength that will carry us. Fear does not have the final word, we do. Our dreams flicker like flames meant to illuminate the darkness that still seeks to deter us. In that moment, a wave of resilience flowed through the people. They drew upon the truths they had shared, forming a barrier against the storm of despair that threatened to break. Moses witnessed a miracle unfold. What began as isolated hearts in doubt transformed into a chorus of voices proclaiming life and hope. As they traversed the undulating sands, they spoke, sang, and recounted the tales that echoed throughout their lineage. Their path, once obscured by shadows, began to glisten with the light of their shared dreams. And it was then that Moses understood the depth of their connection. These people were no longer merely the wandering children of Israel, they were a communion of souls born anew, healing wounds together. With each step, the ground beneath them turned firm, supportive like the collective strength they had ignited. They breathed deeper, sacred breaths of trust and acceptance, while the nearness of the divine was palpable. A knowledge washed over Moses: the promised land was not merely a destination, it was a space forged through love, unity, understanding, and raw vulnerability. As they crested the hill where their new path began to branch towards the horizon, Moses raised his staff high, casting reflective glory upon the journey behind and the promised future ahead. The bat cold descended upon them then, that radiant voice of serenity and truth, echoing through the dust of the ancient earth. You have walked not just from the depths of wilderness but from the shadows of your hearts. This is your testament, the manifestation of faith matured in adversity. The people, newly transformed and emboldened, looked toward what lay ahead with fierce anticipation. Beams of sunlight splintered across the sky, illuminating their path, revealing a horizon rich with promise that waited just beyond reach. Thus, united in purpose, they stepped forward, not as travelers in flux but as a singular testament to our true potential. For within vulnerability lay strength, and in the depths of despair, they had birthed the map of their own divine journey, a transformative revelation transforming their lives, so profound that it echoed throughout the ages. And in that profound moment, each heart present understood, not only would they find their way to the promised land, but they would become the living promise of what it means to embrace life's deepest truths together. The journey had only just begun, and beyond every horizon was an ever-unfolding tapestry of love, where the light of unity banished the shadows of separation for good. So they moved forward, guided by faith, hand in hand, souls roaring with the resonance of divine purpose, igniting a fire within that would endure long after the sands had settled.